especially at the moment, like, it's a bit different in England. We've got a little more control, a lot bigger PA systems and stuff, but touring in clubs and things, it's sometimes what we do is a bit overcomplicated, and so what tends to happen is, instead of to try and just replicate the record in that environment, it'd be very I don't know what the right word is, but it'd be boring in a sort of way. And what we mostly feel like after doing the sound checks with loads of trouble and hassle and equipment not working properly, and we've got a lot of problems like with power supplies, to a lot of the equipment, and we're getting huge hums and stuff, and projectors are breaking down, and the whole thing. All you can do, to be honest, and for us in those situations, is just kind of it's kind of the frustration and the energy side that comes out. It isn't something I would see us doing forever, just for the hell of it. It's more of a thing. It suits that environment. It's the only thing that works under those conditions, under the conditions of things not going right. And it's that you still put something across to people. It's not a weak version of the album or a sort of a pale version of the album or less kind of a produced a perfect version. It's different. It's more. There is a lot of aggression because touring in general is kind of tiring and frustrating. The reasons why we do things in the studio on a record, most of them don't exist when we tour. And that can be annoying for people. They can kind of be disappointed because it's like that things about us they really like it just don't exist sometimes live, and it's something that I mean, hopefully it's part of the process of tying the whole thing into one whole thing. But I don't know if we might ever achieve that. I'm not sure. But the important thing is just to. It's a feel thing. I know it's hard to explain really. But ultimately, in the environment that we play in at the moment, doing what we do feels best. Whether it's exactly what people want, I'm not sure, probably not. But the main thing is that we can come out of it feeling not totally frustrated. Like if we were just trying to create the record and we had all these problems and nothing sounded right, because a lot of what we do is a very fine balance. There's a fine balance between it working and not working, and sometimes in a live environment you haven't got that fine balance at all. It's very ham-fisted really compared to what you can do with a record.
I see.
And it's difficult. Also, I can't control the context and how the instruments are presented exactly because I'm not out front mixing it. So the important thing is just to put across an attitude.
I see. Yeah.
And just give people something to remember really, and give them a feeling of some sort. At least affect people in some way.
I see. Good, David Nugget. The basic nature of the music, it seems to be rather than something very aggressive, it's more introspective. Just constantly introspective, always sort of turning back into yourselves. Is that a apt observation, you think? Does that apply to the band?
I suppose. I don't know really. It depends. Because a lot of it is unconscious. It isn't a conscious effort to create that feeling. It comes out that way. But sometimes it feels like when I'm playing parts in the studio, they might feel kind of aggressive at the time, or kind of attacking. But by the time I realise the whole idea, lots of things offset that feeling, and you get an overall sense of something else. And it's like lots of moods within something. So maybe that's why people feel it's introspective, because they can't lock on to an exact mood or an exact clear feeling. So they feel by the term introspective, that's often it's sort of it's associated with a kind of a lack of total understanding of what's going on. Sometimes, I suppose when something's seen as being like that, it's somehow going into itself, which people on the outside aren't quite sure where it's starting or going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I suppose that can be the effect.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it isn't conscious. Like I'm often sort of occasionally surprised at how songs turn out. You know, they have the picture, but I didn't realise that the picture would sound that way. You know, I thought it would sound like something else. So I sometimes have an idea of what a song will be, and it's there, the bits and the parts, and then by the time it's finished, I'm listening to it, and it's what I thought what I wanted to do, but it doesn't sound at all like I expected. Sometimes it's better, and sometimes it's not worse, but sometimes I get occasionally along the way I get a preconceived idea about how the song might turn out, and by the time I realise the whole thing, it's not like that at all.
Well, その音楽につかみど Now, it seems like, your music, the music of some of the bands that he refers to as house, which may not be an accurate way of describing them, but I guess it just means sort of the wave of psychedelic, the bands that perform sort of psychedelic music coming out of the UK now. Why is there this emphasis on creating this sort of a psychedelic trip for the listener? What's accounted for that?
I don't know. I mean, well, it depends. House music in it. It might be important to sort of establish how the term house. I mean, just in case. But house music as in like electronic house music. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was a little bit caught up on. What he was referring to. House っていうと例えばどういう具体的にどういうバンドのこと言って?
Oh, that kind of house music. Well, I mean, for example, 808 State. Where that comes from is just that. Well, people. It started off not exactly trippy from America. The house music from America.
Yeah, that stuff in America is completely different.
Yeah.
It's like
inner city. Yeah, and all this sort of Chicago stuff. Yeah. And but I think what happens is when people took like a drug like ecstasy, right, and had that music blasting out like it over massive speakers in small clubs, and it created a whole feeling that it did take people somewhere, it took people on another. It was this kind of a modern psychedelic experience, and I think and then the music began to reflect that, and people started making the music sounding that way, and in a sense you got a sort of modern psychedelic music with house music more than rock music, really. And bands like us hear music like that, and I've been to clubs, and I've been a bit out of my head in clubs, and it's just been very affecting. It's been a huge, strong effect. Something that wipes away most rock gig experiences. It's so powerful and loud.
Right.
And you basically, when something affects you, it just comes out in your music. You just, and often the repetitiveness. It's just that. It helps. It just helps get you find yourself in a state of mind that doesn't. Well, you don't have to be on drugs to really appreciate that feeling, if you can create it with the sound of the music. So, that's an important thing. I mean, with our music, actually, like a drug like acid, LSD, is pretty unbeneficial to listen to it with that drug. I mean, people have thought of taking it thinking that it'll enhance the listening of the music, and it's actually destroyed it completely. It's put them in they've had bad trips and things, because it's too much, music that suits that is more basic music, and it's in a sense the original music, which wasn't druggy, mixed in with drugs, it would work. And then when you make the music sound druggy to reflect that feeling, you don't need the drugs as much anymore, and that's why it's kind of an oral stimulus, that helps people, takes people, puts them in a state of mind, without having to actually take dangerous chemicals,
Right.
So.
Taking the music to its next logical step, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's to creating things with music.
Right.
that you might have felt otherwise.
Getting back to the original question, though, why do you think that the times of why has that become a sign of the times, though? Why do the times call for that sort of music? Is there some larger picture that?
Well, I know from my point of view, anyway. projectors were breaking down. And the whole thing, all you can do, to be honest, and for us in those situations, is just kind of, it's kind of the frustration and the energy side. Sometimes what we do is a bit overcomplicated, and so what tends to happen is, instead of to try and just replicate the record in that environment, it'd be very, especially at the moment, like, it's a bit different in England. We've got a little more control, or not bigger PA systems and stuff, but touring in clubs and things, it's, I don't know what the right word is, but it'd be boring in a sort of way. And what we mostly feel like after doing the sound checks with loads of trouble and hassle, and equipment not working properly, and we've had a lot of problems like with power supplies, to a lot of the equipment, and we're getting huge hums and stuff, and